What if I told you there's a place where the sky flashes neon, the lakes turn pink, and birds wear velvet capes, eyelashes, or 4-foot tail feathers? No, this isn't an animated movie. It's Kenya. This East African powerhouse is world famous for elephants, lions, and cheetahs. But today we're flying past the Big Five to meet the feathered elite. We're talking flamingos by the million, parrots with perfect diction, crane royalty and golden crowns, and a bird that literally moonwalks to flirt. From shimmering starlings to eagle-eyed predators, Kenya's bird life is louder, brighter, and just extra in the best possible way. But here's the question. If these birds exist only here, or are best seen here, what happens when the skies change? Stick around, because today we're counting down 15 of the rarest, weirdest, and most beautiful birds that call Kenya home. Some are huge, some are fabulous, and one might just be planting a forest every time it forgets where it left its lunch. Let's dive in. Imagine standing by a lake in Kenya, and the entire shoreline starts to move. But it's not waves, it's birds. Thousands, tens of thousands, all pink, all elegant, all marching like they've got somewhere fabulous to be. Meet the lesser flamingo, the drama queen of alkaline lakes. Smaller than its cousin, the greater flamingo, but way more extra in the color department. Bright bubblegum pink feathers, slender legs, and that classic curved beak that says, "I sip algae and judge your fashion choices." Fun fact, that pink color, it comes entirely from their diet. They feed on cyanobacteria, tiny blue-green algae, rich in carotenoids. The more they eat, the pinker they get. So yes, their entire look is food-based. Fashion via algae. They gather in the millions at Kenya's Rift Valley lakes, Nakuru, Bogoria, Elmentata, turning the water's edge into a living, swirling sea of pink. It's one of the most surreal wildlife sights on Earth. Like someone spilled a bottle of Pepto-Bismol across the savannah. And when they fly, it's even more mesmerizing. Black underwings flashing beneath pink bodies, all in perfect V formations. Like a synchronized aerial ballet choreographed by nature's most flamboyant director. But here's the twist. Despite their numbers, lesser flamingos are near threatened. Why? Because their world is very specific. They need shallow, highly alkaline lakes that support cyanobacteria blooms. These lakes are rare and getting rarer. Pollution, water diversion, and climate change all mess with the delicate chemistry. And if the algae disappears, so does the pink. Even worse, they're picky breeders. If conditions aren't exactly right, they just won't nest that year. No pressure. So here's your question. If a bird paints the sky pink, gathers by the million, and still teeters on the edge, can abundance be an illusion? Tell us what you think in the comments. Up next, a bird with a black velvet suit, a tail longer than its body, and a mating dance so extra, it might just break the wind. If birds had a red carpet event, this guy would show up late just to make an entrance. Introducing the Jackson's widow bird, a bird that redefines extra. During most of the year, he looks pretty unremarkable. Small, dark, quiet, easy to overlook. But come breeding season, boom, he transforms. The male grows a tail longer than his body, two ribbon-like feathers that trail behind him like silk banners in the wind. He puffs up into a black velvet poof with golden shoulder patches, and suddenly he's not just a bird, he's a parade float. Fun fact, his entire dating strategy revolves around aerial dance battles. He picks a patch of grass, flattens it into a stage, then performs a series of leaping displays, straight up into the air, flapping dramatically, tail flowing behind like a comet, then dropping back down to bounce again, over and over, like a goth ballerina with great cardio. Why? Because the female's watching from the sidelines, judging his form, his rhythm, and most importantly, his tail game. The longer and more controlled the tail movement, the better his chances. But here's the twist. This species is endemic to Kenya's highland grasslands, and those grasslands disappearing fast. Agriculture, overgrazing, and habitat fragmentation have shrunk their home range, and Jackson's widow bird is now listed as near threatened. And because the males only show their dramatic plumage for a short window each year, they're easy to miss, even in places where they still exist. So here's your question. If a bird spends all year preparing for a moment that may never come, what happens when the stage disappears? Let us know in the comments. Next, we take flight with a national symbol, a sharp-eyed hunter, and a bird whose scream echoes across African rivers like thunder and feathers. Some birds sing, this one commands. Meet the African fish eagle, a bird so iconic, its call is practically the soundtrack of African wilderness. You've probably heard it before, that loud, echoing, rising whistle that rings across lakes and rivers. It's bold, it's dramatic. It sounds like freedom and thunder rolled into one. And it fits because this bird is a sky sovereign. With a snow-white head and chest, chocolate brown body and black-tipped wings, the fish eagle looks like it's wearing a perfectly tailored suit, ready to attend both a board meeting and a thunderstorm. Fun fact, despite the resemblance, this eagle isn't closely related to the American bald eagle, but they've evolved in almost identical ways, a case of convergent evolution. Same fishing lifestyle, same majestic vibe, different continents. They perch in trees near water, watching, waiting. When the time's right, they swoop down with powerful claws to snatch fish from the surface, with barely a splash. And if they miss, they scream anyway, because confidence is key. African fish eagles are monogamous and often seen in pairs, calling back and forth like opera singers rehearsing from opposite ends of a canyon. But here's the twist. As water systems become polluted or overused, fish populations drop, and so do eagle numbers. Hydroelectric dams, wetland loss, and poisoning from human waste all pose threats to these apex predators. When the fish go, the eagles follow. Still, they remain a powerful presence on flags and folklore and in the skies above Kenya's lakes and rivers. So here's your question. If a bird's voice can define a landscape, what happens when the echoes fade? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Coming up next, a flying rainbow, a dive bomber of color, and arguably the most photogenic bird in all of Africa. If a unicorn and a paint palette had a bird child, this would be it. Introducing the lilac-breasted roller, a feathered fireworks show that decided subtlety was overrated. Its plumage is a kaleidoscope in motion. Turquoise belly, lilac chest, green head, cinnamon back, and blue wings tipped in black. Honestly, it looks like it lost a bet with a rainbow, and won. Fun fact, despite its tropical look, this bird isn't shy. It loves open spaces, power lines, and even roadside posts. Why? Because it prefers to hunt by perch and pounce, spotting insects, lizards, or even small snakes from above, then swooping down in a dramatic flash of color. But its real claim to fame? The aerial display. During breeding season, the male dives, rolls, and flips in midair, squawking like a squeaky toy being thrown off a cliff. It's part acrobatics, part sky opera, part look at me or else. You'll often see them in pairs, monogamous couples that defend territory together, like feathered royalty guarding their safari kingdom. And they photograph perfectly. That's why this bird is basically the cover model of African wildlife. Even people who know nothing about birds will stop and go, wait, that's real? But here's the twist. Because it's common in many protected areas, people assume the lilac-breasted roller is immune to environmental threats. It's not. Habitat loss, pesticide use, and shrinking insect populations are slowly chipping away at what this bird needs to survive. It's still widespread now. But we've seen bright things fade before. So here's your question. If a bird becomes the face of a continent, do we protect the look or the life behind it? Let us know in the comments. Up next, a bird that looks like it walked out of a royal court, complete with golden crown, stately posture, and a voice that sounds like it's laughing at your shoes. Some birds are beautiful. This one, it's regal. Meet the gray-crowned crane, a bird that looks like it's always attending a royal garden party and never underdressed. Its signature feature? A halo of stiff, golden crown-like feathers sprouting from its head. Like nature gave it a permanent best hair day pass. The body, graceful gray with soft white wings, black legs, and a splash of red on the cheeks. It walks like it knows it's being watched. Because let's be honest, it is. Fun fact, this crane is one of the only cranes that can perch in trees, thanks to a long rear toe that lets it grip branches. So yes, it's fancy and flexible. You'll find them in Kenya's wetlands, grasslands, and cultivated fields, often in pairs or small flocks, delicately tiptoeing through the reeds. But the real magic, the dance. When it's time to flirt, the gray-crowned crane becomes a full-on romantic. It leaps, bows, bobs its head, and flaps its wings, sometimes spinning in place like a feathered ballet dancer, having the time of its life. And here's the beautiful part. Both males and females dance. It's mutual, it's wholesome, it's a vibe. In many African cultures, these cranes symbolize peace, love, and long life. That's probably why they're even featured on Uganda's national flag, though Kenya proudly shares them too. But here's the twist. Despite the elegance, these birds are vulnerable. Why? Because their wetland homes are disappearing. Pollution, drainage for farming, and human disturbance all take their toll. Add in the illegal pet trade and nest poaching, and suddenly this bird's golden crown sits on shaky ground. So here's your question. If a bird symbolizes peace, but its world is under siege, what does that say about us? Tell us what you think in the comments. Coming up next, a giant balding bird with a taste for carrion, a 7-foot wingspan, and a face only a mother or a taxidermist could love. Let's be honest, this bird won't win any beauty contests. But if there were an award for most misunderstood MVP, the marabou stork would take it home, probably in its giant, awkward beak. Standing up to 1.5 meters tall, with a wingspan of over 3 meters, this bird is basically a feathered dinosaur in a business suit. Minus the charm, plus the bald head. It's got a naked pink neck, a huge dangling throat pouch, and a face that looks like it's seen way too much. And maybe it has. Fun fact, marabou storks are scavengers. They eat dead animals, rotting meat, garbage, bones, pretty much anything that used to be alive. In the bird world, they're the cleanup crew. No glamour, just results. You'll often find them lurking around landfills, hanging out with vultures near carcasses, or stalking through grasslands like a goth uncle at a barbecue. Their long legs and massive bills let them wade into shallow waters or poke through trash with surgical precision. Yes, this bird has technique. And when they fly, it's surprisingly majestic. They glide effortlessly on thermals, their massive wings slicing through the sky like something out of Jurassic Park. But here's the twist. They play a crucial ecological role. Without scavengers like the marabou, diseases would spread faster and ecosystems would collapse under the weight of decay. They're not gross, they're essential. But here's the problem. As urbanization spreads, these birds are becoming more common in human-dominated spaces. That means more conflict, more misunderstanding, and yes, more garbage in their diet. They adapt, but at a cost. So here's your question. If a creature keeps our world clean, but grosses us out in the process, do we still value it? Tell us in the comments. Next up, we lighten the mood with a feathered bowling ball in polka dots. A bird that's always dressed for a jungle disco and has the energy of a caffeinated chicken. Imagine a chicken, but make it punk rock. Say hello to the helmeted guinea fowl, a bird that looks like it got dressed in the dark during Mardi Gras and loved the result. It's got a body covered in white polka dots on dark feathers, a bald bluish head, red wattles, and of course, its signature bony helmet on top. Because when you've got this much personality, you need headgear to match. Fun fact, guinea fowl are native to Africa, and this species is one of the most widespread, found from savannas to farmland. They're adaptable, social, and always on the move. You'll usually see them in flocks, trotting through the bush like feathered bowling balls, making loud, comical buckwheat calls, and running instead of flying whenever startled. Seriously, they run like cartoon characters. They eat seeds, insects, and even small reptiles, and are excellent pest control agents, especially in farming communities. In Kenya, you'll spot them in open woodlands and grasslands, often darting across roads like they're in a real-life game of "Why did the bird cross?" But don't be fooled by the goofy energy. These birds are tough. They can handle dry heat, live near humans, and defend themselves by biting and flapping like tiny feathered gladiators when cornered. And yes, they've even been domesticated in many parts of Africa and beyond. Part watchdog, part bug eater, part dinner, unfortunately. Here's the twist. Even though they seem common, habitat loss and overhunting are impacting wild populations in some areas. Plus, when the balance of ecosystem shifts, fewer trees, fewer insects, more roads, even adaptable species start to feel the squeeze. So here's your question. If a bird makes us laugh, feeds us, and cleans up pests, why do we take it for granted? Let us know in the comments. Next, we go from chaos to class. A tall, elegant bird with killer kicks and a job title that sounds like it should work in a government office. Imagine if a crane and an eagle had a kid who then became a martial artist and got a job in government. That's the secretary bird in a nutshell. It stands over 1.2 meters tall, walks like a runway model, and wears long, elegant tail feathers like coattails flapping behind it. And that name? It supposedly comes from the quill-like black feathers on the back of its head, resembling old-school secretaries who carried pens in their wigs. But don't let the office-themed branding fool you. Fun fact, the secretary bird is one of the few raptor species that hunts entirely on foot. It doesn't dive from above like hawks. Nope, this bird struts across the savanna, stalking prey like a velociraptor in heels. And its specialty? Snakes. Venomous? Doesn't matter. With lightning-fast reflexes, it'll stomp a cobra to death in seconds with legs built like spring-loaded jackhammers. Some studies say their kick packs 5 times the bird's body weight. That's not a tap. That's a fatal ninja boot to the head. You'll usually spot secretary birds in open grasslands and savannas across Kenya, often in pairs, casually pacing like they're inspecting the perimeter. When not hunting, they're actually kind of graceful, stretching their wings wide, sunbathing, preening their feathers like the fashionistas they are. But here's the twist. Despite their badass status, these birds are in decline. Their wide-open habitats are disappearing due to agriculture, fencing, and overgrazing. Less space means fewer snakes, fewer secretary birds, and sadly, many farmers still see them as just big, weird ground birds, not realizing their natural pest control systems on legs. So here's your question. Can we learn to respect the quiet workers of the wild, even if they look like they belong in an HR department? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. Coming up next, a bird that's half disco ball, half diva, and 100% look at me now energy. If birds had fashion influencers, this one would already be verified on Instagram. Meet the superb starling, a bird that decided looking fabulous was a full-time lifestyle. Its plumage, electric blue on top, vibrant orange belly, snow-white chest band, and glossy feathers that shimmer in the sunlight like they're made of oil slick and dreams. It's small, only about 18 centimeters long. But trust us, this bird doesn't do low-key. Fun fact, superb starlings are incredibly social. They live in tight family groups, often with cooperative breeding systems, where older siblings help raise the young. It's like the bird version of a sitcom family. Lots of drama, but somehow still functional. They chatter constantly, using an array of whistles, squeaks, and short bursts of song that sound like a radio tuning itself. And when a flock flies together, it's like watching a glitter bomb go off in the sky. In Kenya, you'll find them in open woodlands, savannas, towns, and lodges. They've adapted well to humans, sometimes too well. You might catch one trying to steal your lunch or casually hopping under your safari jeep, checking if you dropped a snack. But here's the twist. Despite being common in East Africa, superb starlings rely on balanced ecosystems to maintain their complex social structures. Changes in food supply, pesticide use, or destruction of nesting areas can throw off entire flocks. And because they're flashy and abundant, They're often ignored in conservation conversations, which raises a deeper point. Not all at-risk species look rare. Sometimes they're the ones hiding in plain sight, right under our picnics. So here's your question. Do we only care about saving what looks endangered, or should charisma count too? Drop your thoughts below. Coming up next, a bird that's quieter, grayer, wiser, and might just be one of the smartest animals on the entire continent. Okay, pause for a second, because this bird might just outsmart all the others on this list. Meet the African gray parrot, a feathered genius with the IQ of a toddler, the memory of an elephant, and the attitude of someone who already knows they're smarter than you. Visually understated, soft gray feathers, a white face, and a bright red tail. No glitter, no neon, but don't let the subtle look fool you. Fun fact, African gray parrots are renowned for their ability to mimic human speech. But they're not just parroting sounds. They understand context. One famous individual, Alex the parrot, could identify colors, count, recognize objects, and even express boredom or affection. That's not just mimicry, that's cognition. In the wild, African grays are forest birds, but in Kenya, you'll spot them in western forests in wooded areas, places like Kakamega or near the Uganda border. They move in small, tight groups, constantly chatting in complex squeaks and whistles. They use vocalizations to coordinate flight, warn of predators, and even recognize individuals. It's like their own version of WhatsApp, no signal required. But here's the twist. Their intelligence is what puts them in danger. They're one of the most heavily trafficked birds in the illegal pet trade. People fall in love with their ability to talk, not realizing that these birds need constant stimulation, social interaction, and space. Many captive grays suffer from depression, feather plucking, and mental breakdowns. Because being smart doesn't mean you want to live in a cage. Even in the wild, habitat loss is a major threat. Logging and agriculture are eating away at the forests they depend on. So here's your question. If a bird can mimic our words, does that mean we'll finally listen to its story? Tell us in the comments. Up next, we head toward the riverbanks where a tiny blue and orange blur waits to dazzle you, if you're quick enough to spot it. If fairies were birds, they'd look like this. Say hello to the malachite kingfisher, a dazzling blur of shimmering blue and bright orange, perched like a gem on reeds and riverbanks across Kenya. It's tiny, about the size of a toothbrush, but don't let the size fool you. This bird is built for speed, precision, and photogenic drama. Its most striking feature? That neon blue crown of feathers flaring backward like a miniature mohawk, plus a glowing orange belly and jet black eyes locked in on prey. Fun fact, malachite kingfishers are specialist fishers. They perch low above water, dead silent, then dive straight down like a feathered bullet, snatching minnows or aquatic insects with their razor-sharp red beak. They're found all over sub-Saharan Africa, but in Kenya, they love slow-moving streams, wetlands, papyrus swamps, and river edges. Even in Nairobi, you might spot one if you're patient and lucky. They build tunnel-like nests in vertical muddy riverbanks, carving them out with nothing but determination and that tiny beak, like feathered miners, with fish taste. But here's the twist. They're sensitive. Changes in water levels, pollution, and destruction of wetland vegetation can wipe out their hunting grounds and nesting sites almost overnight. And even though they're small and not endangered yet, their habitats are disappearing fast due to agriculture, urban expansion, and drought. Plus, being pretty isn't always a blessing. Some people trap them just for photos or exotic pet traits. Imagine being so beautiful that it puts your life at risk. So here's your question. If something this tiny can shine so brightly in the world, don't we owe it a cleaner reflection? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Next, we head to the lily pads, where a long-toed miracle bird casually walks on water like it's no big deal. You ever seen a bird walk on water? Well, almost. Introducing the African Jacana, a bird that looks like it's doing the impossible, but it's really just mastering the art of flotation. With extremely long toes and claws, this bird can distribute its weight so evenly that it literally strides across lily pads and floating vegetation without sinking. That's right, Jesus bird, but make it tropical. It has rich chestnut plumage, a blue-faced shield, and long, elegant legs that look like stilts. From above, it almost resembles a wind-up toy, just gliding across a green lily carpets. Fun fact, in Jacana world, females rule. They're larger, more dominant, and have multiple male partners. Meanwhile, the males do all the parenting, from building the nest, to incubating the eggs, to carrying the chicks under their wings like feathery kangaroo pouches. Yes, bird dads stepping up. You'll find jacanas across freshwater wetlands in Kenya, especially in Lake Naivasha, Lake Victoria, or smaller marshlands where lily pads dominate the scene. They mostly eat insects, snails, and small aquatic critters, plucking them delicately off the surface as they walk, like ballerinas with built-in snowshoes. But here's the twist. These delicate environments are incredibly vulnerable. Wetland drainage, pollution, overgrazing, and climate-induced droughts can destroy lily habitats within a season, leaving jacanas grounded and exposed. And since they're so closely tied to floating plants, even small disruptions can collapse entire local populations. So here's your question. If a bird can walk on water, raise its kids solo, and defy expectations, shouldn't it earn a little more spotlight? Tell us in the comments. Coming up, we go from elegant to explosive, a tiny red-billed bird that travels in flocks of millions and has a reputation for being the most numerous wild bird on Earth. What's small, red-beaked, and absolutely unstoppable in large numbers? That's the red-billed Quelea, also known as the feathered locusts of Africa. This tiny songbird, only about 12 centimeters long, looks innocent enough. Tan brown body, short tail, cute reddish bill, kind of sparrowish, nothing flashy. But here's the twist. Fun fact, the red-billed Quelea is the most abundant wild bird species on Earth. We're talking billions. Yes, with a B. Flocks so massive they can darken the sky. And when they move together, it's like watching a murmuration on steroids. They breed in the semi-arid grasslands and savannas of Kenya and beyond, forming nesting colonies that can stretch for kilometers. With thousands of nests per tree, and they don't come quietly. The air fills with endless chirping, flapping, and squabbling. It's chaotic, loud, and weirdly mesmerizing. But here's where it gets complicated. Red-billed Queleas are seed eaters, especially grains like millet, sorghum, and rice. And when you've got millions of mouths to feed, well, farmers get nervous. Entire fields can be stripped in hours. In some regions, they're considered agricultural pests. And governments even deploy flamethrowers, explosives, and aerial spraying just to reduce their numbers. Which sparks an uncomfortable question. What do we do when a native species becomes too successful? It's a conservation paradox. The Quelea is wild, natural, and undeniably part of the ecosystem, but also a genuine problem for food security. And yet, they are fascinating. Their synchronized flight is a mathematical miracle. Their breeding coordination, a biological marvel, and their survival strategy, brutally effective. So here's your question. Can a bird be too common to care about, or is sheer survival a kind of wonder on its own? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Next up, we scale back down and focus on royal flair, a sleek, sharp-looking bird that looks like it's wearing a crown. Because, well, it kind of is. Let's talk style with a side of sass. Meet the crowned lapwing, a bird that literally looks like it's wearing a tiny royal crown. Black and white head, chocolate brown body, long yellow legs. It's got that "I woke up like this" energy. And it's not just for show. That sharp crown pattern? It's like a glowing neon sign that says, "This territory's mine. Back off." Fun fact, crowned lapwings are ferociously territorial. They'll dive bomb other birds, humans, and even large mammals if you wander too close to their nest. Yes, that includes lions. Their preferred habitat? Open grasslands, short savannas, airstrips, and golf courses. Basically, if it's flat, dry, and visibility is good, they're in. They lay their eggs right on the ground, no nest, no fuss, and blend perfectly with pebbles or dry grass. which means they need excellent eyesight and rapid reflexes to defend against predators. Oh, and the walk? Imagine a bird doing a very confident power strut, like it's late for a very important meeting. Always alert, always aware. But here's the twist. While the crowned lapwing is widespread across East and Southern Africa, its open grassland habitat is under threat. Conversion to agriculture, overgrazing, and human expansion are all shrinking the wild spaces it depends on. And with increasing noise pollution and traffic, even its famously loud alarm calls are starting to get drowned out. We often associate conservation with dramatic, forest-dwelling, or mountain species. But birds like the crowned lapwing are a reminder that even ordinary grasslands are ecosystems worth protecting. So here's your question. If a bird struts like royalty, shouldn't its kingdom be treated with the same respect? Let us know your take in the comments. Next up and last, we end on a high note with a bird that's equal parts strange, stylish, and surprisingly ancient. The feathered flamenco dancer of East Africa. If birds had a vintage jazz playlist and a flair for dramatic entrances, this one would be headlining the show. Meet the African hoopoe, a bird with a mohawk crown, a long curved beak, and a call that sounds like it's laughing in Morse code. Its feathers are a rich cinnamon brown, accented with black and white zebra-striped wings that flutter like a flamenco dancer's skirt when it takes off. But the star of the show? That fan-shaped crest, which it raises when excited, alarmed, or just feeling fabulous. Fun fact, the African hoopoe's name comes from its voice, a soft, rhythmic hoopoo, hoopoo call that echoes across savannas at dawn. Yep, it literally says its own name. You'll spot it probing the soil with its long, curved bill, searching for insects, larvae, and grubs. It can even open its beak underground to grab prey. Think of it as a built-in crowbar with surgical precision. Despite their showy appearance, hoopus nest in tree holes, ground crevices, or even abandoned termite mounds. And when they're protecting eggs, they go full security mode, with chicks and females releasing foul-smelling secretions to keep predators away. Nature's version of pepper spray. But here's the twist. Even though the African hoopoe is relatively widespread, its population depends on healthy woodlands, savannas, and open spaces. Urban sprawl, habitat fragmentation, and pesticide use are slowly cutting down its stage. It's easy to assume a bird this stylish would always have a spotlight, but if we're not careful, the curtain can fall quietly on even the loudest voices. And that's it. 15 bird species you'll only see in Kenya, each with its own story, style, and survival strategy. From water walkers to sky acrobats, bird dads to crown defenders, this wasn't just a list of cool birds. It was a celebration of what makes Kenya one of the most exciting birdwatching countries on Earth. If this made you want to grab binoculars and book a ticket, hit that like button. Subscribe for more rare wildlife deep dives and turn on notifications so you never miss another feathered wonder. Which bird surprised you the most? Would you travel to Kenya just to see it? Tell us in the comments below. Until next time, keep your eyes on the sky and your heart in the wild.